start with the lady.
Okay, well, we, in a, how many people calling me at the wrong time? In another time,
Another world.
I think Tamás and I would have talked a little bit about preparation for this, but that wasn't possible, and we all know why. So here we are, this is completely improvised and impromptu. And we both were in Bloomington studying with Gyo rgy Sebo at the same time. And I guess one really good way to start would be, when did you arrive in Bloomington?
I wanted to ask the same question. You go first.
When did you?
No, you go first.
Well, I arrived in 1969.
I was there 1 year earlier.
Okay, well, so the next question is, did you know of Sebo from Hungary, or how did you get to Indiana?
By plane.
Okay.
No, you brought back so many memories when you said we should talk about him. I was told that he was something extraordinary by many, many professors at the academy. And so I applied, and he wrote back that he will take me and I should go for the summer of 68 summer.
68.
And my first impression of, we can't say George, Mr. Sebo,
Yeah.
was that he came in, you remember his car, his humongous car,
Absolutely.
and it was a tiny car.
Big,
right?
it was a big Oldsmobile.
Yeah, and I am sure that he looked through the wheel of his steering wheel
Because he was so
inside there. He was, and I was certain that some car is coming down without a driver into the, and out come this little guy, and I was given this impression of this immense musician, and my immense musician was an immense musician, and this little thing comes out, sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, and he shakes his hand, and my God, his hand, I mean, big, that was my foot, little guy, big hands, and then I remember that he said to wait for him because he had to park the car, and we went up there, and I had a hell of a time talking to him, because in Hungarian you have 3 ways of talking to a person. One, very respectful. One, who respectful but you don't know them that well, and you and I would be 2, normal. So I had a difficult time, and he knew that I was struggling to make it as respectful as possible. And he smiled at my Hungarian. But I struggled, and he kept on correcting me at first. And so we agreed on the time lessons, and so that's how it started. So you tell me your
So did you actually, so I just was a little bit later than you.
You came with Annie Patip,
No, I don't know when she came. I think she was already there.
I don't know.
Yeah, they
But
were.
that we can talk
The
about
French
that.
contingent was there. I came from California, and in those years, if you wanted to study with somebody, the audition process was so much different. You could contact the teacher
Yes.
directly, and you could have an audition or even sometimes you wouldn't even have an audition.
Correct.
The person would say they would take you. Sebo went to Bloomington in 1962 to get out of Hungary.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, he was in Paris.
he was in Paris, but he didn't want to go back to
Yeah,
Hungary.
no.
I think that's the point. So, János Starker, his partner in chamber music, was already in Bloomington and got him this appointment. And what's interesting about it is his initial appointment was not to teach piano majors; it was to teach concentration majors.
Yes.
And those were
Yes.
non-majors. But it seems that, from what I gathered, that he really loved teaching. He had never taught that much. And he really loved teaching and loved the response. And of course, it was, I don't know, like a matter of minutes that he was teaching the best students in the school,
Yes.
because he's
Yes.
quite extraordinary. So when I came to him, I really didn't know much about who Sebo was, except I heard them on the radio, and that changed my life. My then boyfriend got a job in the Indianapolis Symphony, and we went across the country in a bus, a Volkswagen bus that could not go more than 35 miles an hour. And I just showed up, I knocked on Starker's door first because I knew another cellist with him, and, you know, in his, what do you want, whatever. So he had me sight read, and then he goes and gets Sebo cooks his hand. Of course, Tamás had a big advantage, he could understand all this Hungarian conversation. I didn't know from Borscht what they were talking about. You know, I ended up, and so, you know, I really miss those days where you could invite students to study with you. I mean, I think it's such a shame. Even when I first went to Eastman, you were able to get, you had to audition, but you could get a special audition and a special time, and you could welcome somebody sort of into your family, or the family of pianists at that school. So that's how I got there.
Well, I was more prepared. I was thinking, because I lived in Australia and I won a big competition, and I played over at least 35 different times with orchestras and everything, and I thought I was a king. And then I sat down, and my first lesson with him was, no, he told me, I never forget it, learn a Mozart concerto for next lesson. And I said, which one? He said, oh, you choose. There are 27, you choose. So I chose the G major, which is my favorite, still is. And I brought in the music, and I put it in front of me, and he looked at me. You know how he sits at the piano.
Which, the one by the window, or the one?
No, he was at the window, yes. He was smoking, and he says, you going to play for music? I said, well, it was only a week ago you gave me. And says, so? Oh, well, I didn't know what to tell. I was speechless, and said, all right, just play. And he wasn't rude. He was the way he just sort of dismissed the whole thing. And then I started playing, and I was so embarrassed because he played the orchestra part for memory. Just like that. And it was so beautiful when he played it that I forgot my part. I didn't know I should turn the page or not. I was embarrassed, so embarrassed. He showed me a couple of things. He said, well, go and learn it. And I worked day and night, and I memorized it, and the next week I brought it in. He was kind of pleased, and then he said, you need Clementi studies. What? I played 5 weeks ago a Brahms concerto, and you want me to learn Clementi? I didn't say that. And he showed me the Clementi studies, and I took them in, and then he started to teach me the piano. But kindly. And I always felt, I have to tell everybody, when Rebecca came and played, and I know your husband is here, but I fell in love with your piano playing. I said, this is a special person. You have no idea what effect you had on me at the time. Really? You played amazingly compared to all the others. But truly, and you remember the classes we had on Saturday afternoon?
Of course.
And I played a few times, and I was so disappointed.
I remember all those classes, you know, and I remember I had my place, where, you know, I always, in his studio, he didn't go into fancy rooms or all that.
No.
He had class in his studio, it was jam-packed. But I always sat underneath the telephone right by
the door.
That was my place, because that gave me the best view of everything, and also, you know, it's not only what somebody says, it's what they do. And Sebo was just like the brightest star in the sky, or I used to say that he was the sun and everything revolved around him. Just so radiant. So he would talk on so many levels, and it was so important for me to gather up what he was doing. When I came to him, you know, from Los Angeles, I had been, you know, well, I always wanted to be a professional dancer, and I was dancing in San Francisco, and it dawned upon me that I really needed to go back to the piano for for many reasons, because I love the piano more, but I was much better trained as a dancer than the pianist, and I needed to somehow get that feeling of dance in the piano, and I was fortunate to find Shabak. So when his whole idea of undoing tension, undoing unnecessary baggage, just sort of finding your essence and figuring out how to use your body to make the most efficient way of playing anything with the maximum conviction and power. So he had a way of reaching inside himself, and when I walked in, well, I mean, I went in through Starker, and Starker had me play the Chopin Sonata. Was the first movement. He said, I didn't know the Chopin Sonata, but I wasn't such a bad reader, so I read the first movement with Starker. And then I was told by Starker to go and see Mr. Shabak at such and such a time. So he said, what have you been practicing? I said, I haven't been practicing for 2.5 years because I've been dancing. And he said, okay. So he made the same kind of deal. He said, bring me the Bartok Second Concerto next week. I said, what? I mean, the Bartok Second Concerto next week? And he said, yes, next Thursday.
It was kind to me with Mozart.
And I said, you mean the first one? He said, no, I mean the whole thing. I just, because I'm talking to him in English as a Californian. I said, you got to be kidding. He said, no, I'm not kidding. So that was the week from hell. I mean, first of all, I don't know if you know, Bartok Second Concerto is an extraordinarily hard piece. Yeah. I thought the first movement was hard, but when I got to the third movement, I thought, I can't make this. But anyway, somehow or other, I practiced. I don't know if that really set me back on the piano or what it did, but it was, as I say, a week from hell. And I went in, I wouldn't dare come without it memorized, because, he was talking serious business. So it wasn't, definitely was not polished. So I got through the first movement and the second movement, and then I looked at him as if to say, isn't that enough? He said, third movement. And I had some problems at the end of the third movement, and then he said, well, that's not so bad. He said, what repertoire do you want to work on this semester? I said, I don't know. I really, so we just kind of went on from there. But he said to me something that I think it really helped me a lot. He said, I want you to bring me a complete piece memorized and ready to go every week. Whether it's new, whether it's old, whether it's something you looked at and you haven't completed or whatever, I want something different every week. And I did that for about, I thought that was extraordinarily valuable to me because it challenged me, and everything was fresh. And one of the things that I think is different about Shabak than any other of my mentors is he didn't, with me anyway, he didn't hear a piece over and over and over again. He wasn't looking to teach that level of refinement because, as he said to me one day, that level of refinement will go on in you for the rest of your life. These pieces are going to grow and you're going to add things and it won't stay the same. But it was the generality of music and the world of art and science and all of that merging together, and he would come at anything from such a unique angle. Every lesson was a total surprise.
Unexpected. And I tried to do that once in a while, but I can't do it. To say a sentence that came out of the blue that sort of put a whole new perspective on the piece you're playing. I think that he heard, for me, a few times the pieces I had to do for recital. But what was amazing is that I brought it in and I thought that I had it set, and then he came in from the right field or left field, I don't know, and the whole thing changed.
Right.
It was so unexpected because I thought that I was doing something that he might want to hear, and then...
But his job with me was always to show me something
Unexpected.
that I would
you.
never have thought of. I mean, it was always, here's a totally different way of looking at this, a whole new world. And he did that with everyone. And if you would ask me what I got the most, that was one of the most useful, important things, because that really challenges your soul and your spirit and your imagination and your intellect and every level. So his level of awareness as a human being on earth was so high. I mean, I always call him a genius. And it is, you know, he was so brilliant. I mean, that's, on every level, like you could put a score in front of him of something just written that he can read it. I've never, ever seen
I don't know if
such a
you were at the student party where he actually sat down and played excerpts from Carmen.
I don't think I was at that.
Oh. And we were singing along with it. But he was playing the orchestra part like it was the whole opera. And he could do that. And anything that and I love the way he did some master classes, or our classes. This comes from this here, and he would demonstrate from the most amazing range of repertoire. But he never practiced, you know that.
Right, well he did, I think, I heard about that from Starker a lot, that if only Mr. Shuffle could practice, he would be the greatest pianist and known as the greatest pianist on earth. But he did practice, he would just practice to the last minute, like 30 minutes before a concert. I mean, I guess he didn't like to practice. So he wasn't always prepared when he walked out to play. I mean, I remember hearing the Bach, I can't remember which French suite, or he was in A minor English suite. He walked out and I don't know what happened, but he obviously didn't practice because his left hand dropped out and he played all the way through with his right hand, and then the next movement he was okay, two hands again, but you just had this feeling of, God, if you could have just devoted a little bit more time.
Well, he came to Piano Texas in 1996, and Lazar Bergman was also there, and he met him at the list competition, and they were, you know. But Vitsa, his wife, always told him, stop talking to Tamás and practice. But he wanted to have coffee with me, and we talked, and I felt so guilty. He really didn't practice. And then in the last day, he sat down and he played the carnival. He played the usual stuff, but I must say, to do what he did as a performer was also brilliant.
Yeah.
It was never the same, as if he was making it up, honestly.
Well, maybe in practice more, he would have just been a little bit more together. You know?
But he never sold himself.
No, I know.
He never, and never cared if he has his name in the paper or anything. And I think his performance of the Gyo was phenomenal. You know, the violin, the Brahms violin sonatas and everything. Everything he touched, especially in chamber music when I was there. But did you go to Ermin as well?
I never went to Ungá because I was always at Chicago.
Ermin I went 3 times, and it was more of a family by the time I had a family. And Vitsa, his wife, would look after the children a little bit, and we had a good time. And then I got an incredible offer to go to England to go for a whole year to York University and Oxford University. So stupid, you know, little me, I went to Bloomington to get advice from the master. What should I do for a whole year? I can do whatever I like. And of course he did. He said, just do it. I mean, you know, you play if you want to, or teach. I just wanted to sing. And somehow he gathered that idea, and then he went off into a different world of talking about your self-awareness, how you present yourself and all that, which was valuable, but it was not what I was looking for. I wanted a guidance, what I should do as a guest professor. And I never forget it. He was very, very quiet and very peaceful in his advice, and you know, he stopped smoking for a while. That was not very good.
He was a a smoker that didn't smoke, but he always would say that I'm a smoker, but I don't smoke. It was a big effort.
Well, he could play while he had his
Well, he could have 4 cigarettes.
Yes.
And we were all sitting there inhaling that cigarette smoke.
Yes, yeah.
So when was the last time you saw him?
96. 96 when he left, we took him to the airport. And then with Jeffrey Simon, you remember him, we formed the Bloomington Symphony.
Yeah,
I went back, by that time he was gone.
Oh, really?
Starkey was there at the concert. We celebrated 40th year.
Well, we'll go away from the subject again, but I saw him in 1998.
Oh, awesome.
Iowa, and I remember thinking he was not well. I asked him directly. He said he was fine, just tired. But he was not well because, it's just that's what he said. I mean, he looked like he had cancer. I mean, his skin tone. So he died, I'm 77. He died when he was 77. And when he was diagnosed, he had liver cancer.
Yes.
But I don't know the details because I was never actually able to get the details. What I understood at the time was that he had hepatitis C and it became eventually liver cancer. And I knew of a place that you could get a liver transplant because you could take half of the liver out. And so I called him and Mrs. Sebo gave him the phone. And I went through all this, and I never, ever forget what he said. He said, Rebecca, you have to understand my number is up, and I'm going. And he hung up the phone. That was the end. And I called back later, I talked to Starker, and I talked to Mrs. Sebo. And apparently I don't know whether it was, further advanced, or he decided that this is it. The reason I thought about it so much is here I have cancer, and I think I have a good chance of a cure, but it was his decision not to do anything, and not to try to go forward. And at the time, when as a much younger person, I couldn't understand that because he was so into technology, so into medical advances. He would do anything, and he was just grabbing all new information. And I couldn't understand that here, it was way too early for him to die. And my number is up. And I have wondered if my number is up, but I don't think so.
I talked to Vita, his wife, afterwards, and we talked about him passing away. She said something which is embedded in me. He said that the last words for him was to her, I wish I had more time because I have so much to do.
Well, that's why I was hoping he would go for one of these treatments.
But he decided, as you said.
But he also told me that he had played the piano to his satisfaction. So the last concerts, right around that time, 1998, he said, I'm so proud of myself that I can play on stage like I want to. And I think that was a really source of, that's why when I get better, I'm not quite
But one thing I wanted to ask you, because while we were there living, my value of him after he's gone has grown out of much, much more than when I was there.
Well, you're older, your perspective.
Well, maybe, but when we were living it, we had to, as you say, every week I had to produce a new piece, every week I had to practice, and every week I had to, and then he would, Liz Sonata, he listened to it and said, have you heard any Fisher's recording? And I said, no. But I immediately said, but I know her. He says, but that's not the recording. I want you to. And that was my lesson. Go and listen. But of course he played it.
Yeah.
You know, and there were some lessons which were some detail. There were some lessons that were very short, and then there are some lessons when he asked me to come back, and that was a very nice
Well, see,
thing.
I think the other thing about it, no Shabbat student sounds like anybody else, and he treated all of us differently. Because I know, every time I had a lesson, and it was just what it was, and I was, fine. But he always had a unique perspective.
Of everyone.
Of everyone, yeah. So I think it's,
I must say that, not that I'm bragging being Hungarian, I minded his home. Vica asked me to look after the home while they were away. I never forget once I wanted to make pancakes, palacsinta, for him to come back, and it didn't work, so I had to call my mother in Australia to give me the recipe again, and it didn't work out, and I was really bothered by it, but eventually it did. It didn't look good. And then they came home, and he was very appreciated, but it was Vica who really guided him, at that moment. You remember all the toys he had, which I don't call for science things?
oh, of course.
I used to play with them while we had student parties. Did you have student parties when you were a faculty member, when you were a professor?
You mean in Easton?
Yes.
Yeah.
So did I. So do
But
I.
after a while, we used to go to restaurants or whatever.
Yeah. But that was.
Well, that was a different world. That was just.
We never ate for days before that. You were waiting for the moment that you can go and did you get invited also to Starker's
Of
parties?
course, because I played for all the students.
Yeah, so did I.
But it was sort of like a club, It was just wonderful.
But in fact, I had a feeling that for some reason, I thought you were his favorite.
Shabbat?
Yep.
Oh, well, that was Francois and Ungár.
Francois, yeah, but that's the French quarter.
I had no idea about that.
And that was my impression.
Yeah, well,
Because you played by far the best.
Well, I thank you for saying that, but I never felt that way. I was just kind of
Just
hanging
another
in there.
student.
Yeah, I loved studying with him, and he did that, And I remember one time I was standing, I used to walk by the round and just listen to what was listening, but, every once in a while, Shabbat would be playing in there, practicing and playing for himself, and I would stop and I would listen, and it was extraordinary. And there was this little place, if you put your ear right in this one little place in the door, you could really hear quite well because the door didn't completely shut. And I was listening, and there was a pause, and I thought he would start up again, but instead he opened the door and I fell in. And he asked me what I was doing. I said, well, I was listening. And he said, well, I was just trying to practice, clean up the fourth ballad of Chopin. I said, it sounded so amazing. And he said, thank you. And then he waited for me to walk away, and then he went back in and played it again, but I was too intimidated to go back and listen to what he was doing.
Do you remember his wonderful chamber music classes up on the fourth floor? They were amazing.
So if you would say to this group, what are some of the most important things you learned from Shabbat? I mean, before we go there, something I want to say to you is that, if you don't, his name is Sebok, Shabbat, George, Gyorgy. And if you don't know who he is, because people get, wonderful things, wonderful recipes, wonderful artwork, wonderful people, jewelry, things get forgotten, cultures, they get dropped, and then they have to be revived. So he's somebody that you should go look, Google him, go on YouTube. What I had noticed just looking a half hour ago, a lot of more people have put fragments of his master classes from here, from there, from everywhere. And you can really get a sense of how remarkable and how different as a teacher he was compared to most people. I mean, just the way he was able to communicate in such a rich way that really changed a person's life. He just changed the meaning of your life.
But you did that too as a professor. I'm sure we all
Well,
do.
it's just that,
The gene is somehow transformed. I love when Jim said that he does not know where he got his information, and we all don't know.
right.
But
Well, I know that I got a lot of information from Shabbat.
Yeah, right. About some of the students I taught in the last couple of days, I said many times that this will grow. Don't think this is it. You know, it will grow, and maybe he said that. I do not know by now what was Shebek and what is me, but no, everything.
Well, that's because it's been 50 years.
Yes, we digest it, but I think that the more older I am, the more valuable he seems to be in my life. The more I dream about him sometimes.
Do you? I do too.
I can't help it, and I can imagine, sometimes I dream about the fact that I open the door, maybe it's a studio, but it's a door, and he's standing there and says, what did you bring today? And then I sort of say, I don't know, and you know, you're in that situation and you wake up and say, God, I don't have to play.
I think as you get older, the boundaries between living and non-living people shrink. You know, so it's sort of like you become more spiritual and you can communicate more with the spirit world. And so
he was a kind person. He was very kind, soft-spoken. I don't think that he ever raised his voice with me.
When he got angry, his eyes would become
yes, that's all. And then you wanted to
and
leave.
you would feel like there was this going right at you.
Then you wanted to leave. Yes, but he never spoke too loudly.
No, of course not.
Well, what do you know? Of course not.
Well, if he had those eyes,
those
eyes fixed on you, that was woo.
And he had big bulging eyes, and you know, and the way he sat and everything, and this
cigarettes.
Yes, and then the sort of the way he sort of sat. And I find myself without a cigarette sitting like that at the studio, and I hate it. And all the memories come back. Now we are not revering out of proportion. He changed our lives, and I'm sure that all of you have one, or you will experience one or two persons who change your life or your perspective of what life is about. And this is the legacy of Shabbat that we carry on until we give it to somebody else, we're giving it to you. But unfortunately, life goes on, and as you say, it's great that he's on Google. Sometimes there's one performance that I always cry, is the one from Erdmann when he played the Bach. It's just heartbreaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we owe a lot to him.
Right. So that is the point of this, to make you aware of who he was, and to keep if you look him up, I think it will, he still can light up your life, because his light is still strong.
Yep.
And thanks to the fact that we had that technology, which was really the quality of the master classes and the quality of the audio is so much more inferior to what we have today. But at least he came in time for recordings and that. And you know, imagine if we had Liszt's master classes on video. What a joy, or Chopin's, I mean, what a joy that would be to see. So instead, we have to imagine that. And so, again, I mean, maybe the theme of today could be imagination. It's so important. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll do this again.